welcome back to Con Review. So last time we talked about the Calgary 2015 Expo, and this year we're talking about the Edmonton Expo 2015 Expo, and it was obviously in Edmonton. Took place on September 25th to December 27th, 2015. So about 6 months, give or take, later from the previous con we mentioned, and I couldn't do this without my con review partner, so let me welcome back everyone. Cody.
Thanks for having me back, Chris.
Alright, so let's just get right into it. Let's get into the city here. So it took place in Edmonton. I'm from Edmonton, and what about your experience of traveling to Edmonton on that weekend?
Yeah, it was a pretty quick turn and burn for myself. We went just for the one day on the Saturday.
Yeah, and unlike the Calgary Expo itself, the Calgary Expo, you go in, out, the buildings. The Edmonton Expo's venue itself is just like, you're in the building, and you're in the building the entire day. So, like, really, it's tough to talk about the city or the weather. It doesn't really affect you when it comes to the Edmonton Expo so much. I myself went all 3 days, if my memory serves me correctly. I'm really excited for this con lineup. So, I guess not much to be said about the city. What about the layout, and what do you remember of the layout?
I like the layout of the event center, just because like you have that big space with where all the food places are and whatnot.
Yeah, like right outside the actual hallways.
Yeah, it's spaced out well.
Yeah, I think just in general the con is really nice and spaced out.
Yeah, even from years prior, it was like, even though if it was extremely busy, it was always felt like there's always a space you could kind of have some space to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. So, I mean, I remember one thing with the photo op specifically is that, like, there was just maybe like 50 to 60 tables right by the photo ops place that specific year, and it was just kind of really nice if you were just like, you had one hallway just being photo ops, the next just autographs and vendors, and then one just artists, and they rented like 3 or 4 actual hallways, and then you had the vendors. One thing that's really nice about the Edmonton Expo, for the panels themselves, they had like their own little, like, what do you want to call it, like stadium thing where you just go in there, and I think it's like Hall E or something like that. It's pretty good. So yeah, what about the actual vendors? Any vendors or artists, Sally, that kind of stuck out in comparison to the Calgary 2015 Expo?
I mean, going from Calgary to Edmonton in a few short months felt like it was kind of very similar.
Yeah.
Vendors, you know, they have the Tower of Teas and kind of your typical, you know, go from Calgary to Edmonton to Saskatchewan kind of vendors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really quite remember them too much myself. It's nothing like really stood out. Yeah, just the Tower of Teas I remember. And other than that, see, when I went on the first few days, I went with a close friend of mine at the time, and he was all about the vendors, so I do kind of remember vividly having a good exploration of the vendors. But yeah, I don't know too much. I know like some of the cosplayers, like the Cosplay Canada or whatever. I think her name is Kay Pike or something like that. She was technically a vendor. Okay, so yeah, not much else to be said about vendors, I guess, eh?
Yeah, and also coming off from Calgary, it was like, I don't really want to spend as much money at vendors this time around.
Yeah, I hear that, especially when it gets in, you're doing it for once every 2 months. Alright, so regarding guests, so let's just kind of list them first, and then we'll go into stories and everything like that. So we had just the ones we kind of know. We had some cosplayers, and the cosplayers were Ivy Doom Kitty, Riddle, who was like Riki Likote. I can't pronounce her last name, but she's known as Riddle. And then we had Monica Lee, and then for actual like You had the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles there, Kevin Eastman. Then you had Michael Dorn, who plays Worf. You had Elijah Dushku. You had Stan Lee, who finally, I got my photo of Stan Lee during this time. You had James Marsters, Jessica Negri, Brian O'Halloran, Michael Rooker. It was just, like, Guardians just came out, right? Garrett Wong, obviously. Who else do you remember being there?
I know Billy Boyd was there, and Natalia Tena, who was in Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
Yeah. As the, like, what are the North? Are they called, like, Savages or something?
Yeah. But I know this kind of, like, less. I don't know, comparing it to, like, 2014. You know, when you're coming off the Big Bang, the two people from the Big Bang.
You know, I thought this, like, just Stanley alone, especially for me, like I said, all these cancellations, it was huge. You also had Gemma Coleman from Doctor Who, which was pretty big, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, any particular stories about your meet and greets?
No, I don't know. It was a very quick con for myself. I only did 4 photo ops with.
Who were they?
Billy, Natalia, and what was it? Sarah from Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow.
Oh, right.
Katie.
Yeah.
And then Eliza.
Yeah. So for me, myself, like I said, this was a big con for me. I did a lot of people. I did a lot of the cosplayers, and I know before we were recording this, you were telling me that you couldn't meet any of the cosplayers because of how busy they were.
Yeah, their lines just didn't seem like they're so like they're like full. So
yeah,
it was Saturday, right? So it was like expected. That's when cosplayers were, you know, these cosplayers were really popular at the time.
Yeah, it
just wasn't really worth standing in line for like 2 hours because you know how they are. Sometimes they'll talk.
Yeah, especially with another cosplayer.
That's the one thing I just don't like about autograph lines is autograph lines just take so much time.
Yeah.
Because you're paying for that little speech.
Yeah.
Instead of a photo op where it's like, hey, how are ya? And that's it kind of thing. Sometimes you get the random, like, you know, your glasses have glare or something, so you gotta awkwardly go back in and you laugh about it.
Well, yeah, you also had, like, Jessica, Riddle, and Monica Lee, and they, like, Jessica being, like, the queen of cosplay or whatever, but then Riddle and Monica Lee were in that show that was just out at the time.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was called, like, Heroes of Cosplay or something like that. Which was just, like, a reality series or whatever, but,
Weren't they judges or something like that?
I think it was just, like, no different than, like, a day in the life of a cosplayer filmed kind of thing. I don't think there was any judging or anything in the show. But that's how I knew all these cosplayers and wanted to meet them or whatever. And then I just met Jessica, who was there. Then I also met...
Did you meet her on the Friday or Saturday?
I think I met Jessica on the Friday, and same thing with Monica on the Friday. And then I met Riddle all 3 days or whatever. And that was pretty awesome. Then I do remember on the Saturday, of course, that was the main event for me. And that's when I met Stan Lee, and... it's kind of pretty funny because I was, like, front in the line, and
I think that was the only time I saw the lineup go, like, out to the other room.
It was Stan Lee.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, and he did,
his
like,
photo op, and his was the only photo op that I noticed was really bad.
Oh yeah, it was pretty packed, and this was his first time in Edmonton, and a lot of the people weren't willing to travel to Calgary in 2013 or 2012, or the awareness of the expo itself wasn't there. Yeah, and by 2015, like we said in our everything, it was full blown. Here's comic community. Marvel was like phase 2 and everything, so geek culture is at an all-time high here. And then Stan Lee came out, and it was pretty freaking massive. And I remember being first, like maybe the 15th person in line, and he was going down to get into the photo op area, and I remember just yelling, I love you, Stan, or we love you, Stan. I can't remember what I said. Then he actually replied back to me. He's like, of course you do, and everything. He was like, it's kind of cool, Stan Lee, because, you know, I don't remember how old he was here, but he must have been like late 80s, early 90s already, right? And it was a very, like, he does all these things, so even get some kind of interaction from him is a big big deal kind of thing, because normally, like, I remember a couple years later, he never even said anything when we met him in 2017. Right. Yeah, he was just in his chair, and of course we were in the middle of the rope, right?
And when you're 95, I wouldn't really want to talk much either.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're talking like hundreds and hundreds of people, and the convention is trying to manage these lines, right? And it was pretty intense, but it was pretty fun. Then I met Elijah Dushku, and it was kind of funny because I met Riddle, and I got a pro op with Riddle, and she's like, "Hey, do you want to do a hug photo?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then Elijah Dushku brings up her arm to put her arm around my shoulder for the photo op, but I did not know that's what she meant, and I thought she was asking for a hug. So I got a quick little hug from Elijah Dushku, and that was pretty cool. I never met Michael Dorn, and that's definitely one of my regrets, especially all these years later. He's still alive and everything, but they haven't brought him back since, and he's big in Star Trek Next Generation, one of the main cast or whatever. I guess, like, Sean, I remember on the Sunday, my buddies that I was going there wasn't there anymore, and I do remember, I think it was in the Stan Lee line, I was talking to this girl who ended up becoming a really good friend of mine, and she was in the same boat where we were both going on the Sunday, and the people we were going with were no longer there, and we just wanted to go on Sunday to kind of chill, and we kind of met up on the Sunday just to kind of walk around or whatever, and I think I had a couple of photos on the Sunday there. That's when she wanted to meet Michael Rooker, and I was like, okay, you know what? So I got like a table photo of Michael Rooker, and then I wrapped over and I got Sean Gunn, so I got the two Guardians right away. Michael Rooker was pretty cool. He's always a kind of a good person to meet. You'll get some reaction out of him.
Yeah, he's super, super awesome. I remember when I met him in Calgary. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, for sure. And then I don't really recall meeting anybody else. Oh yes, I did meet Jenna Coleman of Doctor Who fame, and I think she was like, we were in the middle of the actual, like, I was in the middle of the line, and she kind of had nothing to say. Maybe it was also due to, like, she's from the UK, and there might have been that, like, jet lag, right? Because I believe she was only there on the Saturday.
Oof.
Yeah, so when you're from the UK, you're only coming in for one day. I don't remember if she was there multiple days, but she literally just, like, I remember my friend being very upset because she didn't even say hello to her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just click, right? And yeah, I know my buddy was very upset when meeting him, and I was like right in my Doctor Who marathon at the time. So yeah, I guess that's a good time to transition to the next topic, which was just about the actual cosplays. Anything that really stood out for you?
I mean, the cosplay scene was pretty alive and well at this con. You know, there's tons of cosplayers outside of the expo grounds, which is always nice to see. You know, like, it's not just all focused inside, just like Calgary, right? Like, when you go outside, and it's just like you still feel like you're in the expo because, like, everyone's outside and chatting, and everyone's in their cosplays, having a great time, taking photos.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I felt like. No matter where you kind of were, there's tons of cosplay happening. A lot of cool.
Yeah, I know we mentioned it before. There was the buddy from Lord of the Rings who came back. There's some, like, Mandalorians who had, like, bananas and using them as guns because you're not allowed to bring guns in as a prop without getting the prop checked. Yeah.
I remember what frustration that was, because some people were getting, like, their prop guns in and others weren't, and, like, then you can have swords, and
yeah, for sure.
It was like such a gray area what they felt like that day.
Yeah, I think the prop thing is one of the reasons why I don't like going to cons or don't cosplay at cons.
Especially if your cosplay requires, like,
a prop.
Need that.
Yeah, like,
just imagine
Jedi or
Cloud
something.
and not having the Buster Sword.
Yeah, a Jedi without a lightsaber, then you're just a guy in a robe, right? Yeah. There's definitely a couple of big ones I do. There's a really good Penguin one year. But yeah, so I think that's really about the cosplays that really kind of stood out for me. Again, when I actually upload this, I can't really post any videos of anybody without permission. So if you were at the Edmonton 2015 con, let me know if you want to be featured in this video, and I'll definitely add you. Or one day we'll do like a retroactive like viewing cosplays video. Me and Cody we'll kind of go with the flow there. And then the last aspect is just like kind of going over how this market compares to how the modern Calgary Edmonton Expo compares to the Con of 2015. How do you compare the two? Like, I guess the Fan Expo versus the Emily Expo in a 2015 lens.
I mean, we have the Edmonton Expo coming up here in September, but from years prior, since the takeover, it's lost its flair. Well, it definitely feels like, I remember like with this year in 2014, 2013, you know, they felt like they were like this next big, you know, like it was like on track to become as big as Calgary, in my opinion. You know, like they were getting these stellar guests, and you know they were really trying to like make it its own big show. And then all of a sudden now it's like a C-list show. It's like, oh, we own Edmonton Expo. Fan Expo is like, yeah, whatever, just slap something together for them, give them like 4 or 5 guests from the circus, and that's it. Like, yeah, I don't give two cares. Remember that one expo where they just canceled like everyone almost?
That was actually the last Edmonton Expo.
And they had to refund all the VIPs.
Yeah, it was been so bad. I do say, like, yeah, about the Edmonton Expo, especially in comparison to 2015, the Edmonton Expo's kind of died out to the point, like, obviously in 2020 and 2021 even, they canceled, like, the problem with, like, a con in September has always been the guests, where you have all, like, the Edmonton Expo, they're not bringing in these A-list actors, they're bringing in either retired actors or TV actors, but all these TV actors are off filming their current seasons of TV shows, so it's always been kind of a challenge for the Edmonton Expo, but now they just, like, they don't even, you know, Fan Expo brought in Dave Tennant and Matt Smith one year, which was good, but, like, it's very small now by comparison. I know you haven't been to an Edmonton Expo that was owned by the 2015, that was owned by a Fan Expo. You've only been to Edmonton Expos under Emily Expo, correct? Yeah. So one thing you'll notice how small it is, they only get, like, I think they rent 3 hallways, and then one's just, like, they only use it just to get the tickets out, and then that's it. And then it's 2 hallways for everything, including photos and autographs. And they put, like, if you think of a square, at the one end is photo ops, and then it's just guest for autographs, and then it's just vendors. And then that's the con, basically. The con has gone really small, and, like, the problem when you have a cancellation is that you...
It almost feels like an indie con now.
Yeah, it definitely does, and it's just like, here's a small taste of what Fan Expo can be, I guess, but that's not necessarily a good thing, and, you know, they do bring in some good guests from time to time, but it's always just a one-off. You're never going to have a full big lineup, and, like, the cosplay scene has kind of died down. I'm interested to see, like, we didn't go to the Calgary Expo this year, so we can't comment, but I will say, like, there's this COVID, the worst of COVID is behind us, and there's this, like, feeling of, like, let's get out. And you were just telling me that Anime Expo in LA, of course, this is not Edmonton by any means, they had to do a fire marshal because of how many people were attending that event. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is, like, are people now like, hey, let's go to the Edmonton Expo simply because the Edmonton Expo is happening, let's cosplay? Or have people got their, like, love for the con back after not... This will be the first Edmonton Expo since 2019, and it's 2022, so...
Yeah.
Oh, we'll kind of see. So yeah, that about wraps it up. But quickly, before we wrap it up, on a S to D tier list, we had the Calgary Expo be an S. You said S tier, I said A tier. What did you think for the Edmonton Expo this year?
Well, going off from just the guests and overall, well, my experience, I guess I'd rank it lower. I'd probably put it as probably B.
B, okay.
Yeah, probably put it as a B. It's still a good show, but going for the one day limits me, and plus.
Why did you only go for the one day?
Because I forget why we only went for the one day. I don't think I wanted to pay for a hotel and everything like that.
So you just went for the one day.
Yeah, and plus, I guess I understand the spectacle with Stanley, but because I was already in Calgary and he was there a couple times already, I felt like when you start repeating guests, I'm like, oh, that's not as exciting than previous years.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, oh, that's not special, even though to to everyone who attended Edmonton, they probably thought that was the biggest star. So I get the appeal, but like when I see repeats, I'm just kind of like, ugh, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know, for me, and I definitely understand that, because in years after the 2015 Expo, anytime Stanley came up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool, but you know, here's a guess I'm simply not meeting again, right?
Especially near the end of before he passed, when he was doing like, he literally did like every con possible. Like for a couple years, it was like he was there.
Yeah,
like
for sure, which is awesome for sure.
Ace, Fan Expos, everything. He was
Wizard
like,
Worlds, yeah.
He was there, or his shop was there selling
merch. I missed that shop. That shop was awesome, man. One of my favorite con shirts comes from that shop, which I bought at this con. That one shirt I have with the Stan Lees and has all the different emotions. I'll try to find a picture of it and upload it. But I think for me, I would give it, like, I gave the Calgary Expo 2015 an A. But I was giving this a A simply due to the trip and the adventure and everything, just for guest list, and because I finally got Stan Lee here, and I told you how 2012 I tried to meet him, 2013 I didn't go, 2015 Calgary he canceled. I finally got this photo here, and then you had Elijah Dushku, you had the best cosplayers at the time, like you had Negri, you had Riddle, you had Monica Lee and everything, and that was awesome. I met a good friend at this con, and I had met Michael Rooker. I had a really great experience, and I'm giving this an equal. I'm saying this is probably, it's A tier also, but it's above the Calgary 2015 Expo for me. Again, I think it's different where, like, you live in Calgary, you came to the Edmonton Expo for one day, and I did the opposite, right, for the 2015 Calgary Expo. And then I guess that concludes the discussion about the Edmonton 2015 Expo. Any last things you needed to say?
No.
All right.
It was once again a fun expo, and Emily was behind these expos back in the early 2010s. Yeah.
Okay. So and I guess our next con would be, if we're going in chronological order, would be the Calgary 2016 con, and now we know each other at this con. So this year I went with Mark, and a lot of stories to be said there, so tune in next time for that episode, and catch you guys in the next video.